And joining us today on our Book Talk segment, great to welcome a woman who's debuting a novel called Till the Well Runs Dry, getting a lot of great press already, just coming out, and it's kind of based a little bit on her family life. We'll find out about it. She is Lauren Frances Sharma, joined us on telephone today. And Lauren, good to talk to you. How are you today?
Good. Thanks for having me, Doug.
Yeah, good to have a chance to chat with you. With novels, I don't finish them before I talk to the author because I don't want to give anything away, but I've about 100 pages in, and it's an interesting story, kind of based a little bit, I would imagine, from, is it directly your family? It's based in Trinidad, right? You're of Trinidadian descent, right?
I am, yes, and it's loosely based on my grandmother's story.
How much of your grandmother is in this book, or how much did you have to kind of create?
Yeah, I knew a little bit about her story, but not much. She had a stroke, and when she had the stroke, I realized that I knew far less than I wanted to know. So she grew up in this very small village in the north coast of Trinidad, and she had a difficult marriage with my grandfather, and took a position as a domestic and left the children behind. She ended up in Maryland, and something terrible happened there, and then eventually ended up in New York. And so that was kind of the bones of the story for me, and so the rest I had to fill in with fiction.
Your main character in the book, it takes place in Trinidad, right? And then she, like you said, has a couple of children and has a family secret that we won't give away, but something happens that she has to kind of live with when she tries to, or is going with this other man, right?
Yeah, she falls in love, and as you mentioned, the family secret is kind of burdening her, and creates this rift in this relationship that she has. It's a very promising relationship with this young man, and the secret follows her through 20 years, and we as readers get to follow her through this kind of on and off love story with her husband, and the raising of her children, and her migration as well. And so, I think that it gives a little insight into Trinidad and its history, into some issues around migration, and certainly about parenthood.
This is kind of unique. I haven't seen a lot of books on it. Maybe I'm wrong, but particularly novels I'm talking about Trinidad. So it is kind of unique in that sense to kind of build a story around that.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the intriguing thing for me. I grew up in Baltimore, and it was one of those things where I think people did, even after I knew them for 10 or 15 years, they would always assume my parents were from Jamaica. and I would say, no, another island. But Trinidad is so different from the other islands, and actually all the islands in the Caribbean are so unique in their own culture, and they have different music and different food, and Trinidad in particular was colonized by the Spanish, the French, and the British, and there were Indian indentured servants and African slaves and Chinese laborers, and all of this kind of, and of course the native population of Amerindians are all mixed in together, creating this very unusual pot of food and music and culture that I just really wanted to bring to life on the page.
Yeah, one thing about the islands, no matter what part of the world they are, it is multicultural, isn't it? There's a lot of different things going in there, and it makes for interesting drama.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. In this case, there are class differences between Mastia and Farouk, and there's racial differences in religion as well.
Well, when you decide to do this story, like you said, it's kind of loosely based on your grandmother. How much research do you have to do as far as being in Trinidad and that whole thing? 'Cause it's kind of a timepiece, right? You go back into, the 40s and 50s, don't you, to start the story?
Yeah. Well, I did have to travel there, but a lot of my traveling was for specifics, left or right, or, where this corner was in relation to this other corner. When you're growing up in a house where people have been raised and born in a completely different place, so many of your stories come from that place. My parents would tell me these very rich stories of their childhood, and I felt like when I was writing this story, when I began to write, that all these pictures were already there. I kind of knew what I wanted to evoke on the page, and so the trips were important, but what was most important was that my parents had shared. They told me things that helped me to write this story.
when you write dialogue, I always like to ask authors, particularly of novels, how they go about it. And particularly in this book, you're writing with dialect at points. Is that a challenge for you, or did you enjoy that?
It was challenging. My dad helped a little bit. I think there were certain words that I remember growing up, and that my parents would continue to say even after they'd been here for a long time. Certain ways of enunciating things or pronouncing words, and so I focused in on those. I didn't want to make it too high dialect heavy because I wanted it to be kind of an easier read, but I also wanted to keep some authenticity about it. So the blend of those two, trying to figure out exactly how I was going to kind of blend the dialect along with kind of more standard English was challenging. But once I hit it, I knew it was right.
The title, without giving anything away, Till the Well Runs Dry, great title for a book. Where does that come from?
So my mother would get upset with us and call us ungrateful, and she would say, you'll never miss that water till the well runs dry, and I thought it was really appropriate. And it's true. I mean, how many of us take our parents for granted and not really appreciate them until they're older, and until we're older, until we have our own kids for half the time, So I thought it was pretty appropriate given the story.
Yeah, aside from the entertainment value, is that kind of what you want to get across in the book? Family and that kind of thing? Is that what you're going for?
Yeah, I do. I think so. I mean, the first thing, of course, is that we should talk to our elders while we have them. So that was one. But there is a finer appreciation for all that our parents do for us, the sacrifices that they make, and really about motherhood and fatherhood and putting the children ahead of you and all that takes. When I was writing this book, I had 2 small children, and I think I was kind of coming into my own motherhood at the time, and I really started to understand what it takes to raise them and to raise them well and to raise them while trying to balance the rest of your own life and your own dreams and your dreams for them. So.
Well, it's getting great notices already. It's called Till the Well Runs Dry. We've been talking with Lauren Frances Sharma today. And do you have a specific website you want to give out, Lauren?
Sure. LaurenFrancesSharma.com. Frances with an I and Sharma, S-H-A-R-M as in Michael A. And that's a good place to find out more. And, of course, there are links to buy the book there.
Great. Lauren, appreciate you joining us today. Congratulations. I know this is the first novel, but I'm sure many more to come. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks,